For the first time in the history of our show, we have a Swedish guest. So we are going to do this interview in our brilliant English. So apologize in advance to all English teachers. But today we have here former coach, manager, now sport expression expert, and one of the biggest experts on Swedish football, Mika Pakalen. Mika, we are happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super honored. It's going to be exciting to answer your questions and so forth. Really looking forward to it.
We would like to start with something that has nothing to do with the World Championship, but the move of Alexander Galante Carlström to Willer Erzigen. What do you think about it? What are the reactions in Sweden?
Well, it's no surprise at all. Alexander has a marvelous and brilliant career behind him, 15 years in the Super League, and he's done wonders for the exposure of this league. And everyone knows that he's 35 years old, and he will for sure want to do something else in the, let's say, before his career retirement. So all kudos for Alexander's contributions throughout the years, and I wish him really the best for the upcoming seasons and in Switzerland. I believe it's the right thing, bringing your family and so forth to the beautiful country of Switzerland, and have a couple of let's call them extensional years, like a icing on the cake, so to speak. So best of luck to Alexander, and yeah, it's it was by no surprise in Sweden. He announced that this would be his last season, and I think all the fans here, and also in Falun, his club in Sweden, everybody knew that he was leaving, especially since his partner in crime, Rasmus Enström, left last season. So it was no surprise at all. I thought that he might end up in Alligator Malans together with Rasmus. Obviously, that could have been the obvious choice, kind of like to connect those dots. But with Wheeler, they were, as I understood, and also had some chats with Alexander during the day. They were very keen on signing him, and he was happy to come to an agreement pretty fast and get this news out. So the later part of this season, he will play, and everybody knows that he's leaving. So it's gonna be kind of like this. Let's call it the tour in the Swedish Super League, where everybody can still give him credit for the remaining part of his years here in Sweden, because I believe that this will be the end of his Swedish spell, so to speak. I don't think he's returning back, and it was quite obvious also that he wasn't gonna move to any other rival club in Sweden. That would have been unheard of, since he's pretty much a Falun player by heart.
Why Villa and not Zug United, for example?
Well, I think, in my opinion, I mean, Zug United, there is so many international stars there already. They have, Sami Johansson and Albin Sjögren and Tobias Gustafsson and Robin Nilsberth and so forth. It doesn't make, I mean, Alexander doesn't make that much of an impact in that team. So I think it was the right choice for Alexander to move to another club where he will have a bigger role, and will for sure make a bigger impact as well. So I think it was quite obvious that Zug wasn't really the targeted club for Alexander.
Okay, quite interesting. As maybe some of the players that you mentioned may not continue in Zug United for the following season. But you mentioned a couple of the names. I will add also Andre Andersson, Alexander Hallen. There are many players that have been to, or they still are in the Swiss Lidl Unihockey Prime League. Well, I just asked quite the obvious. Is it for the money?
I think it's more the adventure, I would say, to experience something else. I also think that the interesting thing is that, you know, players from Sweden are actually, it used to be a little bit, I think over the years it's been younger players, not as prominent players that have left the Swedish league to the Swiss league, whereas now we can see that, you know, players like really big names are going to the Swiss league. Obviously, we talk a lot about in Sweden, like how interesting and high, what is the level of attractiveness within the Swedish SSL or the Swedish Super League now when players are I mean, the star quality leaves from Sweden. But then again, I think like when you're like Alexander now and when you are like Rasmus Enström, when you're, you know, in your middle age, so to speak, 30, 33, 34, 35, it's the perfect opportunity, right? So in my opinion, just, you know, have a couple of more fun years and experience something else. I mean, these players they've seen it all in Sweden basically, and they won it all, and there are no more challenges, so to speak, left.
Okay, I understand. Let's say the adventurous part of it, but in your opinion, do you think that let's say the floorball salary in Switzerland for these players is better or higher than in Sweden?
I'm not sure about the contract levels in that sense, so that would be. I don't want to go into the details, but for sure, I mean, but we think about Alexander. I mean, he has, and I believe he has had pretty good contracts over the years in Falun as well. So I don't think the money is the key thing for him. I don't think it's a key thing for Rasmus Enström either. So in those cases, it's more about you know, the experiencing something new, and also to be able to contribute to the floorball community in another region and so forth. But for some cases, obviously, yes. I mean, the money and also the opportunity to be able to play as a professional, so to speak, full time, and bring your family and if you have kids and so forth, spend more time with the kids and so forth. But in when it comes to these, again, like when it comes to these players, they've had it pretty good. They have a decent way, I mean, level of living and conditions in Sweden as well.
Okay, and my question is, how many goals can he score in Switzerland? It's like 200 in a season, or?
Yeah, well, he can still shoot, right? I mean, that skill doesn't go away, and if he gets time and he gets the space, obviously he's gonna score. But then again, Alexander is not that kind of a player. He doesn't like dribble past 3-4 guys and do those kind of like tricks. So he needs to have also good surrounding, right, and get some good passes and so forth. So but for sure, I mean, he will contribute, and he will do his, I don't know, 30-35 goals at least next season for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the World Championship in Sweden. Mika, what surprised you the most so far, or what impressed you the most? Because I'm asking because there is a lot of criticism in the Czech Republic, and mainly on two things. The first is the attendance, which is not very good.
Well, I'm quite surprised, even though, I mean, I don't know if the match scheduling does things. I haven't been part of the organizing committee, and I don't know how they kind of like have scheduled it and so forth. I mean, for the Swedish games, it looks pretty good, but you know, when I look at the other teams, it looks pretty empty. And I know from the past and also from the years that I've been with the Swedish national team, that organizers from the previous world championships, they have thrown out, a lot of free tickets and so forth, a lot of school kids and so forth that come during the day and check the games. This time around, I don't know if that's had been the case or not. But yeah, I'm quite surprised that for some of the games, like the big games, that there's not more spectators on the stands. So yeah.
Mra?
Well, yeah, you just showed the tweet, and we can talk about the game, the last game in the group stage between Finland and Sweden. And as we can see, that the Swedish infancy have already given a rabatt, a discount for this game, like 50%. That also says quite a lot. Maybe the question from my side is, what do you think of the ticket prices for the World Championships for you as a Swede, as a local?
Well, I can honestly say that I'm going there with my family to check out the semifinals and the finals, and 2 adults and a kid. Those tickets were quite expensive, so yeah. Something. I mean, I must assume that somebody has made the marketing and looked at the budgets and so forth for this event. But then again, I think the tickets are quite pricey, I would say. So that might also be a factor. I don't know. I didn't buy mine with a discount. So yeah, could be something that for the coming World Championships and so forth, the organizers might want to look into. But I also want to state that we have seen the decrease in spectators in the Swedish Super League as well.
Do you know why?
And I mean, no one has a clear answer on that. I've asked questions, how come and so forth, and but after something has happened after the pandemic. People are not coming back to the games as would have been expected. So there's been a decline or decrease in the spectators as well. Even though, I mean, I would say that the sport, floorball as a sport in Sweden is huge. So quite surprising. But clubs are really the Swedish elite clubs. I mean, you guys know probably about Helsingborg that was on the brink of controversy. So the elite clubs are really struggling, and the finances are not looking as good. And it's not only floorball. I mean, I would say that when it comes to like football and when it comes to like ice hockey and so forth, those courts are still doing good. But when it comes to handball and floorball and so forth, elite clubs are struggling with their finances.
Well, you touched 2 points. One thing, decline in the audience numbers for the Swedish Super League. However, this is a World Football Championships, which is a short-term event, and this is something different, in my opinion. One thing that, well, I need to ask: do you think that the Swedish people don't follow other games, but the Swedish ones that much, or do they care about the floorball games, even though that there is no a home team? Because this, in my opinion, is the biggest difference. Of course, the home crowd for the home games is big, but I don't see that much attention or people coming to the stands for the other games.
Yeah, well, I think the most likely the organizers they wanted to be in the southern parts of Sweden, in Malmö, close to Copenhagen and close to the kind of like the other European cities, so it would be easy to travel and so forth. It would have been much. It would have been more difficult to travel to Stockholm and so forth. But then again, to answer your question, for sure, we will see, when the final weekend comes now, it's going to be fully packed, obviously. But I don't think that, I don't think that the level of these minor teams or minor like national teams is not as interesting in Sweden probably than in other countries. That could be at least one answer.
Okay, and like the second point, I've been to Malmö on Sunday myself, and I can say that I've seen multiple billboards, and I can see that for the local people, they must have known that there is an event going on in Sweden, but maybe the like marketing side of the event, is it enough to attract crowds to the stands? Because when I compare it to the like how Czech do it, for example, even in the Champions Cup, and even how the clubs themselves, maybe apart from Storvreta, what they do on the social media or from the marketing side, in my opinion, is not enough. What do you think about it?
Yeah, and maybe if I can join this question, Mika, don't you feel that the Sweden are a bit resigned to some progress in floorball because they are just riding the wave of being the best in the world and don't need to do anything extra? Because if you look at the organization, the visual side, and the marketing, this year's championship is far behind Zurich 2022 or Prague.
Yeah, well, that could be very much interesting topics that you're bringing up. I haven't, I mean, floorball is not big in Stockholm for many reasons because we don't have any good teams here, basically. But on the let's say the countryside of Sweden, where the big clubs are and so forth, Falun and Storvreta, like two, and Växjö also, three perfect examples. In those regions and towns, floorball is quite big and prominent. But when it comes to Malmö, I haven't been there, so that is to this World Championship. So I'm going there on Friday. It's going to be interesting to see. But if it's true that you don't really see that there is a big event going on, yeah, of course, that is something that needs to be addressed to the organizers and so forth, because then something has definitely failed. But yeah, there might be also something into what you guys are saying, that like a Swedish sports fan believes that Sweden is going to be in the finals every year, and they don't pay that much attention to the sport unless it's a final and hopefully against the big rival Finland. That is kind of like where the Swedish your everyday sports fan thinks about floorball sometimes. I mean, when Sweden won back the gold medal in 2021 in Helsinki, there were not that many people that understood that we didn't even have the goal for 7 years. So that was something that we needed to kind of like tell people afterwards, that this is quite a big thing, even though we invented this sport and so forth, but we haven't been the world champs for many years. So you have to kind of like you need to fill in the blanks for the Swedish sports fans.
And one thing to the organizational stuff, I know that you have mentioned that you are not part of the organizational stuff, but what do you think about let's say involvement of International Floorball Federation and their let's say media stuff and let's say their presence or stories they make on social media?
I'm obviously following the IFF, what they put out, and most of the federations, like the big nations, the big four, and so forth. I think when it comes to the Swedish federation, they are a lot better nowadays than what they used to be. So there are a couple of person dedicated, to put out content and so forth. Then again, it's the finances. How many people can they have on their payroll and so forth? So I can understand, that there is room for improvement, definitely. But with the resources they have, I guess they're doing everything they can, basically. So I know that the finances within the Swedish Federation has been under. I mean, it's been a couple of tough years for them as well, in terms of like letting people go and so forth. And this is also something that the league, SSL, Swedish Super League, is also battling with. And most of the clubs as well. So I guess it boils down to the economical state, basically, in the world and in Sweden. So I think we can kind of like see the effects of that as well.
Thanks for that, and let's take a look on the games. Your view on Sweden's performances in the group stage. How did you see it during the first 3 games?
Well, I must say that yesterday's performance against Finland wasn't good enough. Before that, I would say that the first game against Slovakia was your typical premiere. Even though in the end, like Sweden ran away in the third period, but the first 2 periods were quite sloppy. The second game against help me out here, guys. No, it was against Latvia. Yeah, thanks. So I mean, Latvia in the early stages can be quite a difficult opponent because they're still fresh. I mean, Latvia as the two let's say the 2 first formations are pretty good, especially when it's usually in the later stages when you meet Latvia that these guys are tired because they don't have the depth in their squad and so forth. Again, the same story. I think the third period was Sweden ran away. But then it was quite surprising yesterday that the team couldn't actually perform better. Everybody knows, I mean, how Finland wants to play. They wanna slow down the tempo and they wanna play according to their skills. The play, I mean, Swedish performance was quite rushed and stressed and in the end, I mean, it was a clear win for the tactical win for the Finns. There's a lot of room of improvement on many parts, I would say, going forward.
I saw that you and Anders Borgström agreed that Malte Lundmark is the best Swedish player in the tournament so far. Is it right?
Yeah, we had a short poll yesterday and this morning, and yeah, in my opinion, undoubtedly Malte Lundmark has been the best Swedish player so far, yeah, there are more players that need to kind of like step up to his level. I mean, the skill set is there, but they need to perform better in the games to follow.
Yeah, and what about the other young players making their debut in this tournament, like Zacharias Ulriksson or Gabriel Kohonen? How did you see them?
Well, I mean, both are skilled players. I mean, they have a great future ahead of them. But I don't I don't want to put too much pressure on the shoulders of those guys. I mean, it's their first tournament and first world champs. Even though they have performed really well in the juniors and last year in Storvreta and during this fall as well, it's not up to them. I mean, those guys are not gonna be the ones to lead the team. I mean, if they can contribute and so forth, really good. But then again, there are other players on this team that have to carry the team in like those situation where it's needed. So I would say, I mean, they have performed quite as expected, I would say. But there are other players that need to higher their performance going forward.
Jakub, you mentioned Kohon and Ulriksson. Mika, what do you think of their, let's say, body language during the game? And I want to touch the topic of the bad guys in the squad. What do you think of this? Because Ulriksson in the aforementioned game against Finland was twice benched or like at the 2-minute penalty for something that was a little bit, in my eyes, not necessary. So what do you think of these kind of performance?
Yeah, I mean, Zacharias Ulriksson. If you start there, I mean, he's still young. He's still learning, and it's basically learning by doing, right? so this is also his kind of like way of play. Yeah, I mean, he's always the guy that goes the shortest route to the goal, and he has like full momentum, full speed in everything he does, and so forth. And yesterday, obviously, he took a couple of penalties that were unnecessary. But so did even routinated guys as Jesper Sankell. I mean that was a ridiculous penalty that he took, which really, I mean, in the end, I mean, Sweden suffered from those. So I think also Sankell went out and apologized in media afterwards for his behavior and apologized for the team and so forth. But I was quite surprised because, I mean, everybody knows that that the on international level, especially when you're playing against the top dogs, so to speak, you can't give away gifts like that. I mean, Zacharias Ulriksson, he's excused for some parts. He's young still, but for sure, these are lessons learned for the upcoming games. Sweden is not gonna lift the trophy on Sunday if they continue to behave as undisciplinary as they did against Finland.
And one other player to join the party is Kevin Haglund. I've read also on social media, and some people like praised him for the style that he brought, like that he's like smashing everything everywhere, and the way that he ran to the goalie area and sat on Oskari Felden. That was quite obviously intentional. And do you think that this should be seen in the top floorball?
Well, I mean, this is everybody wants to win, right? I mean, when it comes to, I'm not gonna say that that I can justify that what they're doing and so forth. When Kevin Haglund came in yesterday from the bench, it was clear that something, there was an energy boost needed. There was a change needed. Felden in the Finland goalie, he was in the zone, right? So something needed to happen, and I think that he wanted to provide energy for his team and switch things up a bit. I think that was the idea. And then again, he didn't get penalized for that, and it's up to the refs to give him a penalty in that case. So as long as he doesn't get penalized, I guess in love and war everything is excused. But if he were to get penalized, then it would have been a different story.
Yeah. Well, last one to this topic. I totally understand that you do what the refs allow, of course, and of course you wanna win for sure. But at the same time, you as a national team player, you are also an idol for many people. And maybe a rhetorical question: is this something you wanna show or you wanna do and teach younger players? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, like I'm not gonna justify what they did or and so forth, but hey, it's not only in floorball. I mean, you can see this in many other sports as well, especially if you look at like hockey and so forth. So, and the way the physical elements of floorball, I mean, it's really like on a different level, I would say, like the last I would say 4, 5, 6 years. The things that you are allowed to do in international games, it's I think that it's there where we should really kind of like start asking the questions. Is this really okay? The tackling and the physical and parts of and the kind of like sure as hell, I mean, the sport looks a lot different now what it did like only like 5, 6 years ago.
One of the biggest topics of this tournament is the question of coaches, of Thomas Brotman and Niklas Norden. So, Mika, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's really unfortunate. Yeah, I'm not saying you can switch coaches and so forth. That's part of the game, right? I mean, it happens from time to time and so forth. But in this case, I think it's really unfortunate that the news that the federation went out were 22 days ahead of the championships. I think the timing was really poor, and also what they said in the announcement. That they wanna bring other people. More people should be able to participate and take participation in and kind of like experience the national teams and so forth. And this really was something that get echo in both in media and in the floorball community. So I think those things were quite remarkable. I would say both the timing and what they said in that first announcement that the federation did.
Do you think it's really possible that some players would quit the national team because of the end of Niklas Norden and Thomas Brotman?
I don't think this is me speculating. I don't think that the players, will quit because of the Brotman and Nordingen. I don't think that is the issue. It's more of the announcement and the essence of what the federation said. National team being the crown jewel of our sport in floorball in Sweden, and really to kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like detronize the eliteness of things. That was something that especially like Nicolas Ramirez thought, and also Robin Lilsbert and so forth, that they reacted upon. That this is something they don't agree with the stuff that the federation said. We should kind of like, I mean, most of these guys have been playing for so many years, and they still have to kind of like protect and talk well about their sport, not being said as true elite sportsmen and so forth because of they're playing floorball. And that announcement didn't really resonate with them, and I think they felt pretty bad about that. Let's see what happens now with the new coaches coming in. I don't know who's gonna be who's going to get those positions and so forth. But I don't think that it's not like these players are playing for the coaches in that way. I mean, they all wanna be a part of the national team because it's the finest thing you can do. But the announcement that the federation put out, it isn't really helping, right? They had a contract, a continuing contract, but then again, after every major tournament like World Championship, World Games, and so forth, that there's a period afterwards where they do evaluations and so forth together with the federation. And so I guess that Brottman and Nordén wanted to have some kind of reassurance about what happens after the tournament, and that led to the announcement that the federation was to use that kind of like clause or whatever they have in their contract. I've never seen their contract, so I don't know, but I think they used that to terminate the contract and say that, okay, if you want an announcement early, then this is the way to go. We're not gonna continue. So I think that's what Nicholas is referring, how it's referred to in that article.
Yeah. So to be clear, they requested the announcement before the World Championships, right?
I guess so, since they stated that, or I mean, the statement went out like that. So I'm not into the details, so I don't know who did what actually, but obviously there was some kind of clause in the agreement that federation used to end up their contract.
I also missed out the most important part. I would say that during their period as the national team coaches, they have won everything that they could have. The World Championships in 2021 in Finland, the World Games in Birmingham, US, and 2022 in Malmö. So that's another part of the story as well.
Yeah, and also to add to that, I mean, Sweden, as I said previously, I mean, Sweden were not the kings of the mountain for 7 consecutive years before they stepped into their roles and they retook the position and three major tournaments in 11 months. That's quite an achievement. So obviously they have the kind of like the floorball community with them. I have never, during my years, 30 years in this sport, obviously, I mean, of course, there are people that, give them criticism for this and that, taking, just, players from their former teams, yada, yada, yada. But then again, there has been a lot less noise in Sweden with these coaches compared with other national team coaches that Sweden has had. So I think they have a quite and also like Thomas Brottman. I mean, I don't know how many Swedish titles he has, both as a player and a coach, and so he's clearly a winner in that sense. Nobody can argue with that. And to really add to that, who are we looking for as a next coach? That is kind of like, the interesting question for me, because I don't see any clear, candidates out there. Not to be offensive by any means to the coach community in and so forth, but I don't see, any other like really clear candidates currently.
But if you had to guess.
Well, I would say I think it's there are a couple of names. David Johnson being one that I guess he's targeted on the short list. Then there is the fact that David's wife or spouse is the women's coach, and do we really want to have both of the national teams kind of like controlled from the same house up in Umeå up north, which is quite funny if that would happen. I think Jonathan Brolin, the under-19 coach, obviously could be on the short list. Then it boils down to who do I want to see, and for me it's obvious that it's Mika, the Storvreta coach. But then again, he's a Finn. His son plays for Storvreta, and then perhaps on the national team. So I mean, there are complications here and there.
Okay, guys, so let's move to onto what we all predict. I'm talking about Saturday semifinals, of course. Mika, what is your view of the Czech Republic and Czech floorball in this context? Do you feel that that is really going up in recent years?
I have huge respect for the Czech team. I've followed them closely during my time on the national team, and I think the development and the progress and how these kind of like young guys, the golden generations, as you probably call them, and we do at least here in Sweden. They have taken the steps, and they are really matured tournament by tournament. And I truly see them as especially looking at it now. I wasn't as convinced when I saw them during the EFTs during the fall, but now what I've seen so far, still early in the tournament, and they played the Swiss team, but I'm not too impressed with the Swiss team currently. So they haven't really met, really like the top dogs as of yet. But looking out from that perspective.
I'm sorry. So you do not count Switzerland as a top opponent?
No, I don't. I mean, there is a generational shift going on, and I know that Johan Schönbeck is doing a heck of a job. But it's still early. They're early in the process and so forth. I truly believe that he's the right man for the job to kind of like energize and reinvent the kind of like the Swiss national team and the Swiss way of playing and so forth. But in this tournament and during what I've seen during this year, they're clearly not there yet. I see them, in the quarterfinal, and now they're gonna play against Latvia. That is gonna be a test already for the Swiss team. I assume. Depending on how much energy still the Latvia team has, in these stages. But I saw them yesterday against Norway, and I wasn't too impressed with that either. So I think they have still some challenges winning the Swiss team. So I see them, for sure semifinalist, but nothing more than that. But yeah, when it comes back to the Czech team, I see them as a clear candidate for really challenging for the gold medal this year. It's gonna be a massive game. First of all, it's gonna be one of those games that is really boils down to lost duel and one or two goal margin, maybe like one goal in the open in the empty net and so forth. So this is gonna be, it could be even go to penalties and so forth. So this is gonna be a massive game for both of the teams. When we met Czech in the Czech team in the gold medal final in Zurich, I think they were content. They were. You could see a little bit that we reached the finals and we got the really good start in that game, and we kind of like killed them the energy early in that game and so forth. And I think they really learned from that. They're not going to be satisfied just to reach whatever level. I mean, the tournament starts really I would say on Saturday for the Czech team, as well as it does for Sweden, to be honest. So that is going to be a heavyweight battle between these two teams.
So there's no question that both teams will qualify to the semifinals, I guess, in your opinion.
Sweden plays Germany. I don't see any big obstacles in that game. To be honest, Germany has done really well to reach to the quarters. And I don't see was it Estonia or Slovakia that you guys are playing against. I don't think they will either provide any big challenges, and you know, so it's all about getting ready and prepared for the Saturday game, and yeah, let's see what happens. It's gonna be like one of those games, you know, that you know it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be decided on small details.
Okay. Well, we will see. We will see in a way. Maybe to wrap it up somehow. During your time in as a team manager for the Sweden team, I've read somewhere that it was your initiative to have these rings for the World Championships champions created. So, can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, that's yeah. You put the blame on me there. Yeah. That was something that we as a team did. Was surely not sponsored by the federation or anything like that. I have a history. I've been in the U.S. and being part of U.S. sports on school level, and this was something that was always like offered after you know, winning seasons, and I asked the players if they were interested in having rings like this, like really bling bragging, you know, this kind of like you know, and a lot of the players, not all of them, but a lot of the players thought it was a real cool idea. So I reached out to a company in the States, and we designed these, and they got them, you know, a couple of weeks after, and yeah, I believe that, you know, I've seen some of the players when they go to parties and so forth, and they seem to appreciate them and seem to be really proud of those. So it's kind of like a cool thing.
Definitely, we need them in the Czech Republic.
Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate to win two world champs, and now, so I now have like 2 rings. So I have a difficult time, kind of like, should I have them both on, or should I just use one, and what occasions is so kind of like okay to use these and so forth. So it's quite funny.
Mika, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and fingers crossed for the quarterfinals, but not the semifinals.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, take care and see you soon. Lycka till!
Tack så mycket. Detsamma till er.
Thanks, Mika, for having you here.